Okay, here we are again. It's episode 5 of Colonies Builder Spotlight. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. Awesome. It's great to have you on the show again. And as always, just a quick recap. Anyone watching this for the first time, Lisa is building PictureBookDAO. We've been building this DAO for about 10 weeks now. And we're going to do another episode 6, and episode 7 is going to be our closing episode. And then hopefully you will have achieved your goal. So let's see what has been happening since episode 4. As always, I'm just going to ask you about what you've been up to. So tell us a little bit more about the book itself. Tell me about the illustrations. Where are you with the book?
So the book is done, and
Woo!
it will be published. Yes, exciting. Woo! I actually haven't, I think, so this is my tentative plan for now, but this might change. So my tentative plan is to publish it as an ebook and print on demand through Amazon. That takes about like a few days. I have a publisher consultant who's going to walk me through like submitting it. And once it's submit, it takes like 48 hours, 72 hours. So if desired, the book could be available for consumption, by the end of the week, probably, or if not early next week. But my tentative plan is to have the book available. And right now, the inside, I decided not to have the inside colored. The outside is colored, but the inside is in black and white. And the thought was, I don't know if we talked about this last time, but the thought is that it would be more like iterative publishing and editing. So I'd have the book out there, people could read it. If people had feedback, if they were like, oh, I'd love it if this was like this, or they want to expand on it, we can then do a second edition with like the more involvement of the DAO members, and have that then colored in and then printed, hard copy. And, so that's, it's not like we go from zero to having this like expensive hard copy book. And then people are like, oh no, I would have loved it if this happened, or like, oh, it would have been better. Like, I just want to leave room for flexibility and for potential community members to have their input put into the book. So my tentative plan is to publish it paperback and ebook through Amazon, and to have it be some sort of like very, very minimal cost, like the minimal cost that Amazon will allow you, or like the ebook for free in return for signing up for something. I don't have the plan 100% figured out, and that's because, well, I did have a plan. My original plan was I was just going to have it be like $2 on Amazon, but if you signed up for our Discord, which I don't have yet, it would be for free. But the reason why I am now saying that's tentative is because I have decided to look for a co-founder who will hopefully have some more input on like the marketing, the rollout. So, that's why I like kind of pulling it back, is I want to leave room for another person to be able to have their ideas implemented. So
the illustrations are done. It's 32 pages, right?
It's actually 64 pages, because I've decided to lay out the illustrations on the right side and the text on the left side. So it was going to be originally on the same page, but we just wanted it to be big font, and the illustrations are so beautiful. I wanted them to have just a little more space. So yeah.
Okay.
It's the same length, though.
Right. And are you happy with the outcome? The illustrator and what she's done, have you given your final approval on all of that, or is there still some draft work that?
No, the layout is done. The inside of it was already sent to the publisher to confirm. So the inside's been confirmed. The only thing left for me to do is just do a final walkthrough. The cover, I just need to like tweak it a little bit, but the cover is done too. Today I'm going to message the publisher consultant who's gonna walk me through like submitting it. I already have the ISBN number from Amazon. We're just gonna like officially submit it, and then it'll be available. The only thing now is like, okay, should I want to leave like a little room for whoever's gonna come in to have some say in it. And I think I'm going to publish it, but not necessarily tell people what the link is yet. Only select few, so that like the people who've been kind of like watching can have a first look at it, can look through it. But I'm not gonna like, I don't want it to be like out and available yet. But
Right.
but yes, I still need to come up with a plan.
Okay, okay. And this publisher consultant, I know you were reaching out to the Colony community. It was sort of a stab in the dark to find
Yeah.
that person with skill. But did you have to go and find someone, a freelancer, or how did you get hold of it?
Yes. I found her through Upwork. I just messaged a bunch of people with like publishing listed as their skill. I was looking for someone who could do, and this is how I typically would recommend hiring people, whether that's like an accountant or a freelancer for with a certain skill, is to do like a half-hour consultation. I had a ton of questions about how publishing on KDP works, and I did that with her and got all my questions answered. And then I decided to do, I initially wanted someone else to do the layout. I ended up doing it myself because I needed to also kind of edit the text. I ended up doing that, and her role is really just to, she charges by the hour. I don't think there's been like a lot of time yet on the thing, and her role is just to make sure that she can use her expertise to check like, oh, this is, for example, KDP requires PDFs for the physical books, and they and when Figma exports PDFs, they export at 72 pixels per inch. Oh no, Figma exports it at 300 pixels per inch, but on Adobe the PDF default is like 72. So if you use Figma's like built-in dimensions, it'll be way too big for Amazon. So like that's something that like she saved me probably like a ton of time, because she's like, this file, like the dimensions is like way too big, and I'm like, okay. And then I went back in and like fixed that, as opposed to submitting it to KDP, have it like not work out, and then have to troubleshoot. So just having like having that expertise is
Okay. And
hugely valuable.
KDP standing for what? Sorry.
Oh, KDP is the Amazon service for self-publishing. So Amazon and a couple other providers are print on demand. So I learned so much about book publishing. So when you first, if you want to publish a book, you can either go to a printer and say like, hey, print me like blah number of copies of this book, and I'll like ship them to me, and I'll like, I'll pay you for it. It's like buying from any factory manufacturer. Amazon and a couple other providers have something called print on demand, where you can, and it allows anybody to self-publish without needing like a lot of upfront capital. And it's actually free with Amazon. But you have to work within their own limitations and requirements for dimensions. There's trim sizes. If you have pictures, it's just like complicated. But essentially, they will put your stuff on their website. Anybody who buys it will then, their fulfillment center will be told, okay, like print, blah, blah, blah number of copies, and then they'll like mail it to them. So you don't have to worry about anything. It's like not profitable though, really, to go this route, but it is good if you're just trying to get something out there. And also like it's available as an ebook too. So that's they'll take care of everything.
Okay, so let's talk about the cost then. What do they charge you per book on demand?
They charge, I think if it's a physical book, it depends on if it's black and white, if it's hardcover, the number of pages. But I think it's like, I don't know right now. I actually have a document of all of this, but it's something like $1 or $2 or something. So you just have to, but you'd have to price it. There's like limitations on what you can price it as, so that like they make their money back, and then you just make like commissions on top of that. And that's why it makes it not super lucrative if you're like hoping to, if the DAO is hoping to like fund its treasury through this, this is not the way to do it. But if it's more like, hey, this is a way to like get the word out, we're not looking to make money as long as like the basic costs are covered, then it's a great way to do that.
Okay, I see. Excellent. And even if someone just ordered one copy, they will still go ahead and print just one copy and send it to them?
Yes.
Wow, nice. Okay, so
and that's why they have like very specific requirements for what.
Okay, so you don't have to well, you don't have any inventory to sort of get rid of because you don't hold any, which is nice.
No. Yeah,
Okay.
that is nice. Yeah. And it's nice if it depends like your business model. So this brings me to an interesting side story. I don't know if it would have been a good answer to one of your other questions. So I'm just gonna like tell it to you now, and then
Go for
we'll
it.
skip the question if it. But I okay, Meta Angels is an NFT project which is all about like network and like connecting you with other people and like fulfilling wishes in terms of networking. They have a really cool thing where you don't have to be an NFT holder to get access to Discord. You can get one lended to you, lent to
Mm-hmm.
you, and they have it built in their smart contract where someone who holds one of their NFTs can go to like a website and like put in your wallet address and like lend it to you. And at any point when they're like, okay, I'm done, they can just click like come back and like the NFT like goes back to their wallet. So there's no way that you could then abscond with their NFT. So it's like a system of lending that allows people who don't have actually that NFT to be able to participate, in the community. So I found them actually through a different NFT community. Long story, but posted on Twitter like, hey, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for a lend. Anyone got one? Someone lent me one. And then I've been in the Meta Angels community where I posted, I was like, hey, I'm starting, PictureBookDAO. I'm looking to get connected with people with some marketing experience. That was like my wish because they have like a thread where you can wish for things. And they're like, okay, like what kind? I'm like, oh, publishing, marketing. I got connected to two people. We had a quick conversation. One of them, both were fantastic. One of them introduced me to like another person who's running like a children's NFT project, early stage. This other person has been working in the publishing field, for years, gave me some great advice. But the next day she offhand was like retweeted something at me, and it was a different NFT project called Nippy. And they're sold out project of children's books. And it's not like specific for any educational content. It's just like a children's franchise, and they're more like professionally designed. They're more about, they're gonna like go into YouTube. They have like a bunch of books. But they tweeted, they're like, oh, you should check out them. So then I went on their website, found kind of like stalked the people. I found them on LinkedIn. I found one of the guys on LinkedIn because he had his real name, and he also had like the previous company that he worked, he built and sold. So I like found him on LinkedIn. I was like, this is a huge like shot in the dark, but you know what? I'm just gonna like message him, be like, hey, I'm working on this. It's not like competitive to your thing, but it's like similar. Would love to like chat if you have some time. To my surprise, the next day he was like, sure, like let's chat. We talked, and it was super helpful. He introduced me to his co-founder who's like in marketing, who I just spoke to this morning, gave me also like a bunch of tips, who's gonna like, ask around to see if he knows anyone who might be interested in joining PictureBookDAO as a co-founder. And I connected them to my friend who is in mergers and acquisitions for children's YouTube channels, is probably like the top expert, probably one of the top 3 people who is like focused specifically on buying children's YouTube channels. So like they talked, and it's just amazing how, I always felt like, oh, like some people, they have like a lot of friends and family, or they have like a lot of people who are already in the space. And I feel like, oh, I don't have like a big network or anything like that. And I didn't really like socialize in college. So like, don't really know, like a lot of people have like a college network, and I was like, I have like 2 friends. But it's actually amazing how you don't have to have that. You can just like reach out to people, and not everyone's going to respond, but sometimes it's like you only need one person to respond for it to be the right person to, maybe introduce you to one more person. And I always try to like help out back if possible. I can't always, but whenever. So
that's so, and I guess that's so encouraging for anyone watching who doesn't have a big social media following, because you yourself, up until very recently didn't have a Twitter at all, right? Not even a personal one. So you couldn't really leverage that audience that you had built up, or network. And it sort of just shows you that it doesn't really matter, because just that one connection can sort of be the spark that ignites the whole thing. And it's really nice to hear that you're in a position now where I can sort of tell that you're all fired up about this. And I want to ask you about how you've gone from, I don't want a co-founder. I'm going to try this by myself, to actually wanting to go that route?
At the beginning, I was like, I don't know what this is going to become. This is
Mm.
sort of like an educational project for me. We'll see. But if I tried to find a co-founder then, I would have just been looking for people I liked, or like doing it based off of what I hoped we would have. Maybe I would have looked for an illustrator. I did kind of at the beginning was like, ooh, marketing's going to be tough, but I didn't really know specifics of what I needed. And now talking to, the people at Nippy, the other marketing people, I'm like, oh, I know what I need. I need someone who is, well, and it's not that surprising. So it wouldn't have been like a mistake to find a co-founder then. But now I'm like, okay, it's like driven by specific skill set that I need, as opposed to, oh, I just want like a friend, or like I just want someone to help out. Not that those are not totally legitimate reasons as well. If I had someone at the beginning that I knew I trusted and who was also equally excited, I would have been happy to, start it with them, but I didn't. So it would have been kind of not efficient to like go look for someone if you didn't know what you were looking for.
Right. Yeah. And I guess a lot of people will see that as a reason for not getting started. They'll think, oh no, I don't have the marketing background, so if I don't have a co-founder, I can't do this. So I'm just not going to do it. Because you've sort of just pushed through and pushed through and pushed through, and now you've ended up in a position where it sort of just makes sense, doesn't it?
I've been spending so much time thinking about like the psychology of doing what I do, which is really like starting new things. And your biggest challenge is always going to be yourself. It's never other people. And in my experience, whenever I gave myself excuses like, oh, what is like so and so going to think, or like what are my parents going to think, what is like my like whatever like peers going to think if I like did this or that, that's really just an illusion, I guess, for like something that like you're not really ready to get there. And I'm still like working on this, but self-sabotage is like a real thing, and that's something like I actively am trying to overcome. But what you described, the kind of justifying of like, oh, I don't have blah blah blah, therefore I shouldn't do, or I can't do, I don't have permission to, it's not going to work, any number of things, like that's an example of how you yourself will always be like the number one obstacle to getting anything done. It's never external. It's always internal, because there's like a million reasons why you can't do something. There will always be like a million reasons. So you kind of have to act. It's actually like work, it's active work. It's not, I think a lot of people, including myself, think of it as like, oh, when I have the confidence, like I'll do blah, blah, blah. Or when I feel good, I'll be able to do that. Like when I feel ready, I'll be able, but you don't actually, your brain will always come up with ways to sabotage or like tell you why you can't. So you have to like actively force yourself to work on like why you can do something.
Okay, nice. And how does it feel now that the book is finished? The story, the research, that's all you're doing. Obviously, the illustrations come from someone else, but looking at it as a product that is now sort of finished, what are your thoughts and your emotions around that?
That's good. It's good that you asked, because the nature of the work, whether it's this project or other projects, I'm always looking to the next step. There's never like an end. So if you didn't like ask me to kind of like celebrate, having it completed, I didn't even think about it because in my mind I have multiple Trello boards of the stuff I have to do. I'm like on the next, I'm on like my this week's stuff, which is like plan to find co-founder, like launch plan, like follow up with these people. Like I haven't anyway. So to answer your question, I haven't thought about it yet because I've been so focused on like the next step, but it definitely feels great. And it feels, when I look back on it, this time just flew by. And in this same amount of time, what would I have been doing if I wasn't doing this? I mean, knowing myself, I probably would have done another project, but like I could have easily just been watching Netflix. And to be totally honest, a lot of the time doing the layout for this, I was also watching Netflix at the same time. So, but like, I guess my point is like, when looking back, I'm like, wow, no matter what happens to the project, I wrote this book, and I think it's pretty good. I like the story. It definitely like was a challenge at points, but like the time just flew by, and it's kind of amazing how it feels like with almost very little effort, like this thing exists. And that's how like everything starts, I think. So
Yeah.
there's something kind of like, I don't know if I'm being clear, but there's something kind of special about that.
But the nice thing about a book as well is the fact that you can actually print it out and you can hold it in your hands,
Yeah.
and you can gift it to other people, and you can
Yeah.
put it on the bookshelf. And even it doesn't matter what happens to the DAO. Like even 5 or 10
Yeah.
years from now, it will always sit on your bookshelf, and it's something you
Yeah.
created. So I think that's really special, and you should definitely celebrate this.
Thanks.
Good stuff. Okay, so we talked about the book. Let's talk about the DAO.
Yes.
Okay, the last time we spoke, you had quite a few ideas around membership, NFTs, tokens, governance, lots of different aspects of it. What is your current thinking around what it means to become a member of PictureBookDAO? And how is membership gained? How is it revoked? Like, what does that model look like?
Yes. So this is my current thought, but again, I want to leave like flexibility for anyone who joins, whether they're like a co-founder or also just like other members. But this is just, you should always have a plan, but like be loose about it. And this is based on, the conversations I've had with the people I've mentioned I've been connected to. My tentative plan is to this is the roadmap. Phase 1, release the book, have it be like basically free and as an acquisition channel to get people sort of interested, for word of mouth, to know about what we are. Step 2 would be to do an NFT collection, which would also double as sort of like founding membership. So as long as you held it, you would have membership. We would probably do something where the tokens would convert to percent off your mint price for the membership, depending on like the number of tokens you had, just to give it some value and to have it be able to convert to something. That membership would give you the right to vote on what projects we do next. So if you buy the NFT, you'd also get the book, a physical copy of it in hardcover and colored. So that would come with your thing. Profits of the book, some percentage of it, at least 50%, if not upwards of 80, would go back to the DAO. And then the DAO members could then use that to, fund the next projects. In addition to, of course, like the treasury from the NFT collection. And like I can imagine something down the line where if you had like another, like a special NFT or a pair of like a certain style of NFTs, then you would get like guaranteed that like your project, your book idea would be voted on. Whereas like the other ones, it would have to go through like a pre-selection, or you'd be guaranteed like an interview, or you'd be guaranteed something for like illustrators, one for like writers, and then the people who just want to have like maybe more say over what books get made and what doesn't, or if they want like their kids in the book, or just like various things. That would be more like phase 3, where I think after phase 2, where we do like an NFT launch and just get some initial capital, and of course like print and send out the books, we would then vote on whether or not the next book, which will be about how DAOs work, because this current book has like a lead into that at the end. So I hope that is something people would be interested in. But also I'd hope to do one book by a community member. And I had someone who was watching this reach out to me and like talk to me about like a book that he had an idea about, and who's really excited about like this potentially being. And one of the people I talked to through Meta Angels is like, oh yeah, like she knows a lot of people in the publishing world. I'm sure they're like illustrators and writers who just might be interested in this, for whether it's you're not a professional writer and but you have an idea and you don't have an illustrator, you don't know how to publish anything, or you don't have, this could be a good platform. Or you could be like a published writer or someone who does this for a living, but like you just kind of like the idea of what we are, which is like a community owned publishing company, and like also the platform. Hopefully we'll have a big enough platform that's kind of like a built-in audience for people. So that would be the long-term plan.
Who would buy this NFT? Who's like the ideal person to buy the NFT? Is it a creator, like someone who writes, someone who illustrates, or someone just who has a background in publishing? Or is it someone that just loves children's books? Like, is there a specific person that you think would love to be part of this project?
That's a great question, because that's helping me like clarify how I imagine structuring the project. I think there would be two types of ideal people, and it would be priced differently. So I think there would be like an NFT membership for people who are creators, whether they're illustrators or they are writers, and they could get membership just by having like, doing a bounty, or like just by doing a job, and they would get like a specific like contributor membership, and they wouldn't necessarily have to pay for that. But if you're somebody who's like, oh, hey, I have an idea, and you want like your project submitted, and you want to like guarantee that it has like some level of views on it, you could, then purchase like a higher level of, membership, and we wouldn't need that to participate, but there would be like a system for creators, whether there are illustrators, writers, or graphic people, and then there'd also be a system for just, so that's one target person, and that's a really obvious one. It would be people who want to be writing books or illustrating books, or contributing in terms of like getting paid, stuff like that. And then of course, I think the main and most important actually target audience would be the people who would be consuming the books. And that I think would be structured in a way where if you buy the book, I would like to do this. I don't know if it's possible, but I would like to do a version where if you buy the book, you automatically get membership. And the book would then have to be priced maybe like a little higher than, your typical children's book. So instead of $20, maybe it'll be $30. But I want to experiment where it's kind of like obligatory. I mean, it's not obligatory to join, but it's almost like, it's not like, hey, everybody could have bought Amazon stock back when it was like low, but many of us, including me, did not, but what if it just came with you using the product, So I kind of want to I want to experiment. That's really important. It's the idea of like, what happens if membership and ownership isn't just something that's like a marketing thing where that you have to buy into it? Like, what if just to be a consumer, you're like part of this? And maybe we do like different tiers where if you wanted to like participate more and you wanted more of a say, or you wanted like better perks, like you could get, a higher tier thing. I think in the initial mint, it would just be very simple. It would be like a small thing. It would be more like, it would be a lot cheaper. I think it would be down the line, or I don't know how it would be actually, but I want to find someone who can help me like think through it and might have some ideas. And my initial plan was to just kind of launch the book and then like try to get as many people, as many eyeballs as possible. But I also want to make sure that whoever I find has the chance to put their own spin on things. So
sure, okay. And are you how are you going to find this co-founder? Are you already in talks with some people? You mentioned a few people, or are you sort of putting the word out now? And
I'm putting the word out. I'm definitely putting the word out. I'm also going to go through my network and just ask like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Is anyone interested? So one thing that I really need, it has to be someone who's very experienced in like Web3 and NFT collecting and has just been in the space for at least a year, probably longer. I think if you're like new to it, there's still opportunities for you to be a part of the DAO and to be, contributing. But like as for this co-founder role, I think I really need to be clear about like what limitations I have. And one of them is just like, I'm still new to the space. And I think that can be great because it brings like a fresh perspective. But I also want someone who's just very experienced and they've seen, kind of like the high tide, when like NFTs were flying off the shelf. And also like the low point, just someone who's also like in a lot. So another part of this is like, I want someone who's already active in a lot of communities, who could, who has connections in those communities, who could help organize collabs, who can help kind of put the word out. Ideally someone who even has like a bit of a following on their own, who could, I know this is like wish list. If I could just get, it's sort of like when you're applying for a job, they're like, entry-level job, but you need like 5 years of experience. It's like, well, so that it's not like any of these are requirements. I know at the end of the day, the most important thing is someone who, I like have a personal sort of connection with, and we can work well together, and is excited about the project. I think that's really the most important thing. But ideally, they'd have a lot of experience in this area. And then with marketing, I actually don't think, so that would be kind of like the first priority. The second priority is actually like marketing experience is not as important. Like I don't necessarily need someone who has a background in marketing, although that's always a plus. But this is not really, even though it's kind of like a marketing co-founder, it's more about like the connections, and it's more about like someone who has a personal interest in the project. They're kind of my two things, and it wouldn't be a pay, like we don't have any income. It wouldn't be like a paid position, but you know, we would structure it in terms of like equity or whatever, so that they would then get like a cut of all the profits that aren't going back to the DAO. And the other thing that might make this enticing to people is that I do think, I haven't confirmed this, but I'm fairly certain I could get, you know, like a sizable amount, maybe like 10 to 15,000 as like an initial funding from like venture funding, just to, I don't know if we'd want to go this route, because it might be nice to have it like totally community owned, but it might also be nice to have money that we could use to run ads, or to actually just pay for the book to be, you know, if we're like, okay, we're going to do it, you know, our first mint is going to be, I don't know, 3,000 people, and every single one of these people is going to get a book as part, like if that's the case, it would be nice to be able to just like print these books ahead of time, have it shipped to like our like little distribution center, and like have that kind of taken care of, and not, you know, the DAO would make more money doing that than if we did print on demand through Amazon. So it might be nice to just have like a little bit of capital to be able to really take this from, you know, a side project to a potential like publishing company. So that's the other thing, is like, we don't have to take venture funding, but that is, you know, an option. It could be very feasible to get some amount of money. It wouldn't be enough to like pay somebody a salary, I think. So this co-founder would have to be interested in working for this as like a, you know, in terms of for equity and for like a future thing, but they wouldn't necessarily have to spend their own money to get it off the ground. So just to have like a little more legitimacy and potential runway.
Okay. So I guess this is your invitation to anyone watching this. If that sounds like you, and you resonate with PictureBookDAO, and maybe you've been watching the episodes, or maybe you're new to this, I guess if the mission resonates with you, and you seem to tick some of those boxes, they should definitely get in touch with you. We will put the links in the show notes to let everyone know exactly what the best options are. Cool. Okay, so let's just go back to the PIC token.
Yeah.
So you briefly mentioned some of the utility and what gives it value. Do you just want to tell us again exactly what makes the PIC token valuable?
I think right now, some people have PIC tokens. Those tokens, I want to give them value by having them you should be able to trade them in for like a discount off of any NFTs you buy from us. Or like, I don't know how we would do that technically, but I'm sure it could work. I also think there could be a way where once the DAO is up and running and we have profits, the PIC tokens could be a way to actually distribute profits back to the members beyond. I think for our initial period, we have to say that, hey, like profits are going back to the DAO, but you can vote on like which projects it goes towards. But maybe like at a certain point, we could have it be distributed back to them as as representation of the actual profits. This is sort of how I'm leading now, but if again, like someone could come on and be like, no, like here's like a great way you can use tokens. NFTs have kind of like a built-in community of people who like collect them, and then it's like it feels more like one-to-one, like one membership equals one thing. Whereas like the tokens, their value is that like you can split them up and they're like into any type of amount, but it's maybe like a little bit more complicated. We're like, oh, like some number of tokens equals a membership. Like I want to be able to use them for kind of separate things. So right now we don't have like, other than having it convert to, if you have enough, into a membership, or maybe we can have it like convert to a book. I don't know. Like it depends on how. That's kind of like phase 2. Depends on how we structure that. I definitely plan to make sure that people who have the tokens have value and would plan to continue to use the tokens, but it seems like it would be more of like it wouldn't represent membership. It would represent more like stuff within the thing. And maybe we would do something where like, hey, like you have you're a member, but like you can use your tokens to buy books that we create. So instead of like going to Amazon and paying like, or Barnes and Noble or whatever, like paying full retail, if you're like, hey, I actually want to buy like 5 of these books and I want to give them, to people I know, you could probably purchase that at our like wholesale price, or basically at cost, but using your token as opposed to So we could do like some version of, but there, I think the tokens are amazing, but I see it, at least currently, maybe I just need someone to like open my mind to like more possibilities. At least currently I see it as something that will have a lot of value once the DAO is to a certain scale and like has a lot of things going on, because its primary advantage is that it can be split up into, you know, any number of amounts, and you don't need to have it as like one discrete entity, where membership, it's probably better to have it as like conceptually one discrete entity, like one NFT equals this.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. So let's talk about governance. You briefly talked about members making decisions. How does that tie into the phases? Let's say your second phase is selling NFTs. People buy the NFT. That gives them a copy of the book. They might also be entitled to receive some profits. But the decisions and the voting, especially, like, have you thought of what type of decisions?
I feel like the DAO is kind of in this like late adolescent, like teenage phase, or like early where it's not gonna survive if I'm just like, hey, I'm like, peace out. All of you just make decisions now. We actually have to do it in phases. So in phase 2, once the NFT is out, the decisions would be limited to what books get published. So we, the kind of core team, which would be me and then the founder and then maybe other people, if we like bring them on, would decide, okay, like looking at the amount of money we have, we can do, you know, 2 books, and we have, or like we have the ability to do the current book and just have it colored, because that's like very minimal cost, and we can pay for, you know, either 2 books that are already written and we just need them illustrated, or 1 book that's like we pay the writer and the illustrator or whatever, where we can do like, we have, someone would have to go and like look at the logistics of it and kind of make these financial decisions, and then we could go to the DAO and be like, okay, like this is what we have money for in the next quarter, and then maybe like the management team would then go and source people, but also tell the community, hey, like please recommend if you know of anyone, and then the community would then just vote on the content and you know, what would go in the books. And that would be kind of phase 2, where we'd have to get to a point where we're still really focused, and you probably wouldn't see any profits. Most of those, any profits we make would probably have to go back to the DAO so that we could fund new projects and other books. But I think once we're in phase 3, where we've maybe had a couple books that weren't written by me, maybe written by community members, published, and you know, we or maybe we've reached like a certain number of members, then we could look into expanding it so that, one, there could be roles where you could be someone who gets paid to manage, you know, you're kind of like a publisher, like you're the one who's like focused, you're the one who's like following up with the distributor, and you're the one who's like organizing, talking to all the potential writers or illustrators. Like we could, once we have that, then we'll look into like other ways to decentralize decision making. And but I think initially membership will be about deciding on content, and we'd have to be like at a certain scale where maybe we could start looking into like structuring it as different committees, where you could like, you know, it would still, I think, you know, it's not, to be honest, it's not perfectly decentralized in terms of the operations. I'm not sure that's ideal either. What we're really focused on for this as an experiment to see, is it possible to have a profitable publishing company business that are owned by members, as opposed to, and then, you know, once that's kind of, if that's true, then we can look into how we can start to, you know, decentralize the central authority, I guess. But it's not really an authority. It's more like somebody's doing kind of the grunt work of like following up with people, logistics, paying bills.
So let's talk about timelines a little bit. You said that the book is sort of almost published, right? So where is the end of phase 1, and when is the start of phase 2? I
mean, what's kind of put a pause on this is that I do want to find first a co-founder. But maybe in 2 weeks I'll be like, oh, I don't necessarily need a co-founder. Maybe I can just take on, like, you know, I can pay someone on a project basis to do this, or I don't know what will happen. If if I weren't looking for a co-founder, what I would do is publish the book right away, send it out to everyone I know, and have, like hopefully call, like just blast it. It would be free. Try to get like as many followers or like Discord members, or like I'd have be somewhat active, like somebody would I pay would be in there to like message people at least a couple times, not like every day, just to make sure it's not like totally dead. Start to use that as a way to learn about what people want, what would be interesting. And then that would be the end of phase one. Once we kind of get as many people as possible. And then I would start planning phase two, which would be to run some sort of capital raising project, most likely an NFT collection. But given that I do want, this is a side project. I have a couple other things going on. I want to be able to do this while also doing my regular other projects, my regular job, I guess. So I think I do need help to do it. And if I don't find someone, it'll just be slower because I do have to kind of prioritize my other work. But I'm sure I can find someone. So the plan is to find that person. If they kind of agree with the current plan, we'll just move forward with the current plan. And then originally, before I thought to bring on a co-founder, the plan was to just kind of blast it. And then that would take us through the end of the series. I would publish it probably late this week. It would have a couple weeks to like, at our next call, we kind of update on that. And then, the final call would be sort of like, what did I learn from those people, kind of next steps. But because, now that like there's a potential like delay, depending on how long it takes to find someone, I don't know if I should push through with that. Some people have said, you should wait because you want to make sure that person has the ability to like do it, kind of like launch it their way, because it might have bigger impact. You may not. Yeah. So if that's the case, then, then it sort of depends.
Sure. Okay, that's fine. You mentioned in the previous episode that there was going to be a marketing contest, something to do with your early supporters.
I feel like everything's sort of been like paused at least for a week. I'm just gonna like see what comes back in a week, and if I don't even get any takers, then I'm gonna have to rethink things. But I still would like to do it, and would work in a way where once the book is launched, like this first draft, every time you like refer it, and we can do it through like a referral code where like you like check out, I don't know, like if anyone who gets the book through your code gets attributed to you as an individual, and then that converts to pick tokens, which would then later possibly, like once you amass enough, like convert to a membership or other things. Like you could use it as like currency within the DAO, and I still think that would be great. But I don't have concrete plans on when to do it because I don't have concrete plans for a launch. What I do have though is I am gonna have it on Amazon. I'm just not necessarily gonna market it. But anyone who's sort of like watching this, who's sort of already been an early contributor, I'll probably send them a link so that they can at least look through it and have like something that, so like it'll be a secret link, I guess, until I have a plan for the long term.
Okay, which is a nice little perk as well to them for having been your first supporters. Cool. Yes. And so any other opportunities for people to contribute other than your co-founder potential spot, or are you sort of just focusing on this launch and nothing else?
Not that I can think of, but if anyone has like things that they think they could contribute, please. I think if you're not already in my DMs, tweet at me and I'll message you. But I don't really have anything, and frankly we don't have like money, to pay anyone. So, and it's also at a stage where that's why I'm looking for a co-founder, and I'm not necessarily someone who is like going to be doing a project like an initial launch project. But maybe we'll structure it so that you can kind of see if this is something you want to do in the long run. So we can maybe structure it as a launch project first. But that's because I do need someone who's like, there's like a limited amount of time that I have. So when you hire someone to do like a specific task, it creates a lot of load on this person, like deciding on what that task is to kind of figure out what they need. And right now I actually need somebody who can figure out what is needed, and kind of talk that through, and help me kind of plan like the high level and really be instrumental in like shaping the DAO, as opposed to someone who's just executing on a specific vision. I could do that, but I would probably have to start doing this with a little more time than I currently have. So I think like 2 people kind of doing it part-time would be enough. But yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, usually I ask you, what are you going to be doing over the next 2 weeks? But I think you've sort of covered what you are going to be up to over the next 2 weeks, right?
Yes. I'm going to publish the book. I'm going to give it to people who have been supporters. We'll figure out how to do it. The people who I'm already in direct contact with, I'll just message them on Twitter. But everybody watching, I'll probably let you know. Mostly we'll focus on trying to get, talk to some people about potentially a co-founder. Yeah,
no,
but I'm going to follow up with all the people who've reached out with me and kind of let them know also, hey, I'm looking for, this. I don't know if you're a good fit or someone, but here's also a copy of the book.
Okay. Well, again, if you're watching this and you think you might be the right person for this, please reach out to Lisa. Okay, Lisa, there's nothing else from me. It's been a pleasure, as always, speaking to you. I'm really looking forward to episode 6. Good luck with everything, and
Thank you.
best take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye. Ciao. Bye.
Bye.